Welcome back. I'm going to try to solve some more puzzles today. Didn't do very well last time, and my score only went up 1 point. If solving puzzles isn't what you're looking for, some of my feedback says that my voice is very calming and relaxing, so if you need help going to sleep, please put this on in another tab and let it play. So, I forgot to do the splash screen. There it is. My rapid rating is 1 point below my peak. Okay, my puzzle rating, however, is much higher. As you can see, in this position, my opponent has just captured something there, leaving us with a few opportunities. I immediately see this bishop down in the corner going to f7. Bishop captures f7, check. And I even later saw the queen is also pointing at that same square. I think maybe the problem with the bishop taking there is that the king could just move out of check one way or the other. Either way, whichever bishop or queen takes, one option is for black to capture back with their rook. However, that rook is currently in the way of my rook getting to the back rank, my d-file rook. These two rooks are facing each other, which also makes me wonder if that's not one of the first moves, because that would be a free rook. No, it would not be free. They have a rook right beside it that's guarding it. Okay. And then they would still have a rook guarding f7. However, if I captured on f7 with either my queen or my bishop first, which is check, if that rook captured back, then that would get out of the way of my d-file rook to go to the back rank. Let's see. Just for example, let's try the queen one. I think that's more forcing, because in that one, if the king moves out of check to the corner to h8, then the queen moves down and it is checkmate. So I think that is more forcing. That leaves the only sensible move for black to capture with their rook. And then my bishop is pinning that rook to the king. So I will go down and check with my rook. They will have to block with their queen. And I will take it, and that will be mate. I think that's the answer. The problem with taking with the bishop first, if the rook recaptures, not only is that rook pointed at my queen, guarded by their king, but then nothing's pinning the rook when I go back with mine. So they could block if they needed to, but if they blocked, that would still be mate. No. We've already established that if we use the bishop first, it's not the pin that's the problem. It's the fact that the king can simply move out of check. But if the queen captures first and the king moves out of check, that's mate. So if the queen captures first, the rook would recapture on f7, opening my rook to the back rank, leaving their rook pinned by my bishop. My bishop over here, hidden on a2. So I think that is the solution to this puzzle, and I'm going to try it. Okay, that was correct. I don't think anything else makes sense other than checking rook to d8. And as I said, the queen has to block. Now I take the queen, and that is checkmate. All right. I got 5 points for that puzzle, giving me 2306. Not quite my highest ever rating, because in the middle of the last video, I actually went up to 2310, I think, before I lost one and had to work my way back up. Okay. Back rank, theme, mate in 3, and pen. Those themes all look correct. I'm going to go to the next puzzle and hopefully do better than the last time I got this high. We have a traffic jam down here near the black king. My queen on e6 is pinning that rook to the king. My bishop is over here. protected by the pawn on a5. My knight is in the middle on d5, pointed at another knight, which is also pointing at my knight, by the way. So I have several options here. One is to the queen has just moved forward to d7, challenging my queen on e6. One option, I suppose, would be to capture the queen. But then this knight on... Wait a minute. This knight on f6, if it goes over there to capture my queen, then my rook is pointing at their rook. Oh, but the king guards that rook. As I said, it's very complicated. Well, let's think about this. My queen is basically trapped right now because I can't escape on this diagonal because that's the diagonal that their queen is on. So, and I can't escape any other way because it's completely surrounded by pieces. 4 black pieces, the queen, bishop, rook, and knight are all forming a little L-shaped barricade around my queen. I've got one of their pawns behind my queen. I've got my own knight in the way of the other diagonal as well as a pawn. And there's really nowhere to go. As I said, this whole diagonal is patrolled by their queen. So if I don't trade queens here, I'm going to lose my queen anyway, I think. So there are a couple of options here, and I'm trying to figure out what they are. I do have a couple of checks. For example, I can capture this rook and lose my queen for a rook, which is a possibility. That puts their king right here. And I think their king would be relatively safe there because my rook can't come in right now. And now that their knight on f6 would be pinned if their king recaptured. I assume their king would recapture. But me capturing back that knight with either my knight or my rook would be foolhardy, I think, because there is a pawn and a bishop guarding that knight. So even though that knight would technically be pinned, I don't think that would gain me anything, this queen sacrifice here. So I'm not going to follow that any deeper. I know sometimes queen sacrifice is the answer, but in this case, I just don't see how any benefit that could arise from that. Okay. Two other possible checks are with my knight. My d5 knight can go to e7, capturing the bishop with check. Or it can capture the knight on f6 with check. Both of those are check, which would be an incredibly forcing move. I do like the second one. Knight capturing the bishop on e7 check. They couldn't recapture with their rook because their rook's currently pinned. But they could recapture with their queen. And then we would still be talking about a queen trade. Wait. If they did recapture with their queen, I would get that rook for, well, yeah, I think that would just be a free rook. So maybe they wouldn't recapture with their queen. Knight captures e7 check. I'm up a piece. They can't take my queen at that point. I've created another escape square for my queen. Maybe. Yeah, I don't think they would recapture with their queen because then that would give me their back rank rook for free. But they could just move out of check. That's the other thing here. They could just move out of check. And then I take their queen. And they would take with their knight. Oh, I'm gonna win that rook either way. Maybe that's it. Maybe it is knight to e7 check. Because again, if they capture the bishop, if they capture my knight with their queen, I win that rook back there. with my queen, because their queen got out of the way. And if they move out of check, one way or the other, then I would take their queen, and I assume they would capture back with their knight, and then I would take their rook with my knight, which they haven't had time to capture yet. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now, again, that's going to leave some complications, so it might be a long puzzle, because there's still going to be this afterwards, because that knight will be out of the way. Their f-file rook could come and get my rook down here, which would be a check I would have to take back. Very complicated. But the other check is this one. Knight captures f6 check, which is their knight. That one doesn't look as promising to me right now. Again, their rook couldn't take back because their rook is pinned, but their bishop could take back, or their pawn could take back, and either one, whichever one took back, would be guarded by the other one, protected by the other one that's left there, and my queen would still be sitting here hanging in the middle. With not much to do. And honestly, other than those two checks, those two knight checks, I don't see anything else that makes sense. Although I think in a game I would be very tempted to take their queen first with my queen. I do know that in that case, I'm pretty sure that their knight would recapture here. And then I could take their rook, and they would take my rook with their king. Yeah, I'm not seeing how all that's going to work out. That's going to looks like a bunch of even trades, because even afterwards I could end up taking this bishop with my knight, but their king would be here and it would take back, I think. Or maybe when their king is here, I could bring the other rook over and check. But then they could always bring their knight back. Remember, their knight's right over there. The one they took my queen with. It could just come back and block that check. But then I could take the knight here. But still, that's just even trades, right? That's just a bunch of even trades. Let's look back at this one. Knight captures e7 check. I think I missed something earlier. I think I missed that their c knight could just capture that. So none of these moves are looking good for me. I paused and followed this out for a few more minutes, and all of those look like they end up with even trades. I'm probably missing something else, but knight check here, knight to e7 check. I win the bishop. They take back with their bishop. With their knight. That opens up this, their rook over here. I suppose I would still need to take their queen at that point, because my queen is still hanging and I still don't have any getaway squares. So if I take their queen and then they take my queen with their f knight, we're still at even trades. A knight for a bishop, queen for a queen. Then I could capture their rook, and they could capture back with their king, which is still even. And now their rook is pointed at this pawn, and therefore this knight behind it. And that can't be it. That can't be it. What am I missing? Oh my goodness. Can I protect my queen here somehow? I guess I could move my knight in there. I could play knight to c7, but then they would still take my queen, wouldn't they? That's the whole reason they moved their queen there in the first place. And then when I took back with my knight, we're not in any better position, I don't think, than we were before. Also, if I did that, they might just take it and win 2 pieces for the rook. So that's not good for me. Going back to this knight to f6 check. Knight captures f6 check. I'm up a knight. I assume they would take back with the bishop, because that's what I would do. Because it would not only be, they would have to take back. They wouldn't just move out of check, because that knight move also threatens their queen. Maybe that is it, because it is the more forcing move. They have to take back. But again, they take whichever piece they take back with, the bishop or the pawn. The other one that didn't move is protecting the one that did. And I've lost a knight for a knight. And if they had recaptured with the bishop, then their rook and queen are now protecting each other across here. Well, I've spent 10 minutes and I can't figure this out. So either my brain is flatlining, which is possible, or this puzzle is beyond my ability to solve it. And that is very likely. I'm going to go with the knight captures the knight, just because none of the I'm rolling a dice. I don't have any reason to pick that over the other two, because all of them resulted in even trades as far as I could tell. Okay, well, I just lost 9 points for that. Okay, let's retry the puzzle. Is it taking the bishop? It was taking the bishop, and they did take back with their knight. Which I thought they would. And as I thought would happen, we're left with even material. If I take the queen, they take my queen with their knight, and we're still even. And then their knight would be out of the way, so I could take the rook. We would still be even, because they would take back with their king. The only possible thing I could see as a follow-up to that is bringing over my other rook, which they could then block by moving back the knight that took my queen. So that can't be it, right? No, of course it's not. Hint, it's taking this knight. Wait, that's the end of the puzzle? What? How is that the end of the puzzle? Because nothing got solved, right? Did anything get solved? I took the bishop, and they took back. And now I take the knight. And that's the end of the puzzle. They're not going to... I understand they can't take back here, but what would happen in real life? Now they would take my queen, right? I would say about 80-90% of the time, once the solution is shown to me, I understand, oh, that's what would have happened. But here, okay, we're on the analysis page. The engine says that this is my only move that's not losing. And of course they would capture back. And now my only move that's not losing is to capture this knight with my rook. Because why? That's my question. Okay, I get that if I capture their queen now, their knight would take me back. Right. That's the third line shown there. Okay, the second line shown there would be near equality, and that's my queen just sliding backwards to take that pawn. Well, now that this knight over here has moved, yeah, that pawn is undefended. So what would be so bad about that? That would be very bad. Okay. Well, now they would take this pawn, it says, That's their best move. And then I have a bunch of moves that are about the same, so not good for a puzzle, but they're definitely winning now. They have one more pawn than I do and the same amount of minor pieces. Okay, so backing up, if I take this knight, which it says is my only winning move, now they would take my queen. Well, I assume so, because I've taken their knight that was guarding their queen. So I assume that's and of course they're the ones that moved this up in the first place, right? So they're going to take my queen, and then I would take their queen. Oh, I'm up a knight. Oh my goodness. Well, because here they couldn't, I mean they could, but they wouldn't capture my rook back with their pawn, because then I would get their queen for free. And they can't capture back with their rook because it's pinned. So they're basically forced to take my queen at this point, or move it. If they move it, I don't know. I don't know what would have happened if they had moved it. I guess because I'm already up a piece, I would have gone ahead and taken the rook. And if they took back with their queen, I would take back with my queen, and they would take back, and I would be left with an extra piece. Although I'm about to lose another pawn. I guess that, man, yeah, that one was above my level. It says it's rated at over 2400. Okay. And the theme was hanging piece. It didn't look hanging to me. Maybe in some grandmaster level of thinking. So, well, I apologize for wasting so much of your time, but yeah, that puzzle was beyond my level of skill to solve. As you saw, I spent whatever it was, 15 minutes on it, 13 minutes, and I'm still not sure. Okay. In this one, we are nearly down to an end game. We each have a queen, a rook, and a minor piece. I'm not sure what was so bad about the move that the computer just made, getting their queen here, because I think if they had left it there, I was probably going to try checking with my bishop and pinning it. No, because they would have moved their pawn forward. Well, then I just would have taken it. But yeah, if they had left their queen there, I'm sure that would have been my next move, is to put my bishop on e5. But we know that from the way that puzzles began, that move was not a good move on the opponent's part. For some reason, they should have left their queen there or done something else. I mean, we were challenging it here, so I guess they couldn't have left it there. What should they have done? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they should have threatened my queen somehow. Or something. Anyway, whatever they've done, it's bad. So now should I check with the bishop to e5, even though the king just moves into the corner, so I don't think that's great. I can move my rook over to d7, but no, they wouldn't take. But they could just move their queen back at that point, and then my rook would be in the way of putting my bishop over there. This might be another one of those videos that's just mildly depressing to everybody, because either it's been too long since I've had coffee, or I have reached the limit of my chess abilities. I don't think it's a queen sacrifice. I could check with my queen on e4, but I think they would just block with their queen, right? That's not a good check. It doesn't make any sense. All of the pieces that they have on the board could capture if I checked on rook c1, right? All 4 of those pieces could capture my rook there. So I don't think that would be good. I don't think this would be good because they are just going to take my queen. That leaves this. But again, the bishop to f5 check. The king moves to the corner, and I don't have anything. That takes me back to the rook harmlessly, pointlessly threatening the queen, which would just move out of the way. I don't know where it would move, but it would not stay there, I'm certain. Where would it move? If it moved there, I guess I could trade for it. And then, no, because they would take back with the knight, so that when I took their rook, they could take that back, and then we would each be left with a minor piece, and I've got doubled pawns that are isolated. That can't be it. But yeah, if I check, they block. If I check here, they move. Well, I'm not going to cry on screen, but I just spent another 5 minutes with the video paused and still can't find anything. So I'm going to try the check. Okay. Well, good for me. That was it. So at least when I do eventually get this wrong, I won't lose all the points for it. Because I got the first move right. So I might lose 6 or 7 points. Because I'm not going to get the next move, right? What's the next move? That's the reason I thought that was bad, is because the king just gets out of check. There's no follow-up at all. That's ridiculous there. That just loses a queen. This now? Is it c to c7, rook to c7 now? Because earlier I said that would be bad because it would block my bishop's ability to get over there. But now my bishop is over there. Would it rook to c7 do anything? The queen's just going to move out of the way. I don't know where. It might go back there. And then I would be stuck facing the rook, so I'd almost have to take it. Why not? Okay. Sorry, I didn't want to waste any more of the time. That wasn't it. Of course it wasn't. It was... What? Rook to c2. Just like rook to d7. That looks like just a mild one-move threat on the queen, and then the queen would just move. Right? Wouldn't the queen just move? Probably here. Honestly, I thought it would move there because I was threatening mate here. But now it's wanting to trade. I would rather that they took me so that I could undouble my pawns and in the meantime win a free knight. Okay. So it was check first with the bishop to get the bishop off the back rank where it would have been trapped. And then to go down here, which threatens checkmate in the corner, guarded by the bishop. When the queen gets out of the way, I don't take, because they have, so all their pieces are guarding that square. They can take back however they want. Make them take me to undouble my pawns and take the free knight. Okay. That one was only rated 1911. The theme was battery and pin. What piece was pinned? Was anything pinned? You know what? Well, I mean, while we're on such a downslope, why not just do another one? Have a check here. Bishop to a4. My queen is in trouble. My bishop is in trouble 2 ways. My king is in trouble multiple ways. That's the only good thing that I see. Well, there's also queen. I can bring my queen over there to check. Maybe one. Oh, I think the bishop is better because my queen is knocking off these 2 squares and this one. They can't block that, can they? Is that just mate in 1? Or they would have to block with the pawn or the rook. The king can't move out of that check. Wow. That one was rated higher than the previous one. And this was incredibly easy. Mate in 3, sure. 3 plus. That bugs me a lot. I mean, it doesn't bug me as much as me not being very good at chess, but it bugs me fairly strongly that some of the ratings on these are way off, at least for me. Maybe for your skill level, that second one you wouldn't have seen, and the previous one you would have just click, click, click. I don't know. But for me, it seems like they're way off sometimes. Okay, here the opponent has just captured something there. My opponent is up a piece, but they haven't moved 3 of their pieces. So they're essentially playing this game with a rook and some pawns. Somehow, at some point during this game, their king got trapped in the middle and their rook moved over here. Nobody knows why. And something is about to happen here because I have all 3 of my remaining pieces active as soon as I move this rook. It makes me wonder if my correct move isn't bishop to f3, because that gets me out of the way of the coming check here on e8 with my h rook coming over. It also protects this square in case I come down with my d rook, which would be mate. I assume, though, once I play here, they're going to move this knight out. That's my assumption. And the reason is because not only does that attack the bishop over here, but it blocks my rook from being able to get to that square. I don't think it makes sense to go here because that blocks my own rook from going there, and it's an empty threat on this rook, which I assume would just move over 1. But here, bishop to f3, it keeps that pawn from moving forward, gets out of the way of this rook, and prepares this if I want to try it. So nothing else makes sense to me. Oh, that was it. Oh, the bishop moved up to block my rook from coming down. I thought the knight would have been better for that because the knight would have also attacked my bishop. But now I just play rook here. It's not mate because they block with the bishop, but then that's mate. Okay, that one was rated just a little bit higher than the last 2. And still felt much easier to me than the one before it. Well, now that I've solved a couple in a row, I'm tempted to keep going, even though my score is down. All right, the queen has just captured something here, and it is momentarily safe. If I were to move this knight, then my bishop would be attacking it. Is there someplace awesome I can move this knight that traps the queen? Or is there anything else? There's nothing else, right? There's no checks. I cannot check. I don't have any captures on the board at this moment at all. Not a pawn, not a piece, not a trade, nothing. This knight can move to b6, which unleashes my light squared bishop onto the queen and protects that pawn, both from the knight and, of course, my queen sitting back here would be protecting that pawn now that the knight's out of the way. Okay, so that's a possibility. That would force a queen move. Right now, this pawn is undefended. But once the knight moved, the queen could not go this way. My bishop would take it, or queen. Probably bishop because of that pawn sitting there. If it went here, I could capture it with this pawn. If it took the knight, of course, I would capture with either the queen or the pawn. If it went down, I would take it with the queen. If it went here or here, my bishop would get it. If it took the rook, my king would take it. Here, my bishop, or, well, no, not the knight, because the knight would be over there. Bishop, probably, because, again, the pawn. If it went there, that's a problem, is it not? What about here? That might be better. Knight to f8. Because that attacks the queen two ways. It attacks the queen with my bishop and the knight. The knight doesn't have to be over here protecting the pawn because, as we already said, the knight moving protects the pawn via the queen. Those squares are fine without the knight in the way because the pawns protect those squares, right? So that might be better because it also defends this square. So then the queen would have to go all the way over here, at which point I could fork there. No, I was going to say my queen would be guarding the bishop and I could fork their rook and their queen, but the knight is also guarding that square. So if I go here with my knight, the queen is going to go to h6, I'm certain. And then it's not trapped, right? It just gets away. What if there was a way to actually trap it here? Wait. I'm glad I asked that question. What if there was a way to actually trap it in there? Look at that. I could play knight. No, that doesn't trap it. Oh, man, I thought I was a genius for a second. I thought knight to f6 and the queen's trapped because the queen wouldn't take it, right? And the queen would be in danger. Wait, maybe no, it does. It does. Now, okay, maybe I am a genius. Well, you know, compared to normal for me. So, going from really not smart to normal. So knight to f6. They could take with the pawn, opening the escape route, but it doesn't matter because the bishop's already hitting the queen. All of these squares are covered, right? Pawn, 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 plus queen here, bishop here. King guards this square. Queen guards the bishop. Rook guards the knight, which has moved here. I think that's it. Oh! It's not it. It was something else entirely. I have to wait for the hint button to light up because for some reason they coded a 2 or 3 second delay in there. There it is. Well, it was a knight move, so I was right about that. It was the one knight move I didn't consider. And why didn't I consider that? I didn't consider it because not only does it put the knight in danger after the series of moves are over, but it doesn't keep the queen from going right here and checking me. And of course, yes, at that point I can then block the check. But then can't the queen continue getting away? Like there? And then when I chase it again, and then... Oh, and then it can't get away. Dang it. Yeah. I didn't expect it to do that. Yeah, but and then I lose the knight on the next turn for a pawn. Nope, I just lose the knight because the rook's guarding that pawn. But I'm up a queen, for a rook and a knight. I've got all kinds of time today, so I'm going to keep going, even though my puzzle rating is lower than it's been in weeks. So, I may have a checkmate down here. There's check. My bishop is cutting off these two squares. My queen will be cutting off all of these squares. My pawn cuts off that square. Well, my queen would be cutting off that too, so it would be forced to go here. No, then I would not have the follow-up mate right there because the knight's guarding that square. What would I have at that point? I guess I could follow up check here. At which point, right? Check, king moves, check. Then my bishop is still cutting off those squares, but now my queen is here on g5, so it would be cutting off these squares. So that would force the king either to the back or to the back there. And then if it went over there, I suppose I could check here, but then it would go back again. And I don't have anything. Plus, if it didn't go there in the first place and it went this way, then I guess I could check there and it would have to go further back. I don't know. That's probably not it. I don't have anything else, though. I don't have any captures. Not a single capture, trade, pawn to take, nothing. But I do have this check. Let's do it. All right, that was it. It makes sense, right? Or should I bring my rook up? Should I bring my rook up? Threatening not mate because they just get out of the way. Because again, we've already said if I check here on g5, they just get out of the way. If I check on g5 and they go to h8, I could check here, but then they just move over again. And both their knight and king are guarding that square, so I couldn't go to it. I can't get any closer. We can't in other words, we can't zigzag all the way down in there, because at some point, these pieces, not only the knight guarding that square, but the king, wherever it is going to be guarding the two squares in front of it. Maybe it's here. Maybe it is a rook. Maybe it is a rook lift. I'm about to find out. Well, it wasn't a rook lift. It was not. It was the follow-up check. It sure was. Now is it the rook lift? Nope. And now is it here? Yep. Oh, why? How is that good, though? How was that good? Because they can block so easily. Oh, if they block, I take the knight. But it didn't. It didn't go to the next step. Why didn't it go to the next step? To see if I knew the point of that. What? So it was the zigzag check all the way down to there. And that puzzle's only rated 1800. But you see what I mean? How that doesn't accomplish anything until they block. Then I've accomplished something. Yeah, no. Maybe it's this H check over here. Oh, it was that, even though I lost my knight. What if it's this pawn check here? Probably not. Oh, it was that. Oh, lost a pawn and a knight. That's not it because of this knight. Is it this? Nope, and it moved away again. What about that? Maybe. Alright, we're just going to go around and around this knight, looks like. Well, there's this, but I'm pretty sure the queen could just take that. Oh, there's this. Is it that? Oh, I got 10 points for that. Is it because I just started moving pieces and I got it? That's pretty depressing. That puzzle was rated over 2,000, and it was so much easier than those ones I failed. Okay. Oh, they have 2 queens. Well, how nice for them. Wait, did it just seriously give me a mate in 1? No, it did not. Wait, did it? If I check there, they block with the bishop, but then that's mate. Oh, they didn't block with the bishop. I don't think it matters, does it? Oh, good grief. And that one's rated 2,000. And got 10 points for it. Good for me. Maybe it's a good thing I kept going if I'm going to get 10 points for all these puzzles. If I could get my king out of... Is it... Oh, there's got to be a mate here somewhere. Is that... That's check. And the king has to go left or right. And then I move my king and that's a mate, right? Oh, I can't go there. I have to go here. Oh, well. Yeah, oh, I got 13 points for that one. Also rated over 2,100. And you saw how easy that was. Good grief. I'm going to stop now because I'm actually higher than where I started. So I am sorry for my little emotional outburst there. But it's a little frustrating to have practiced and studied that hard. And then to get nicked by a puzzle that I'm pretty sure was underrated. And then... and only be able to gain it back by a couple of overrated puzzles. But anyway, I do appreciate you guys watching and your continued support. We're going to keep trying. See you next time.